To maximize Cartethia's damage, we need to understand exactly how her kit works, especially since it scales off of HP. So if we go under skill details, as you can see, literally every skill scales off of HP, which is quite interesting. Obviously, one of the big things is having Cartethyia transform into Fleur-de-Lis so we can do a lot of damage, but there are a couple things we need to set up before that. If you recall, during the 2.2 story, there were 3 swords that Cartethyia used, and if you look at her forte bar, each one is there. Each one of those swords is associated with a different attack. So if you do her basic attack 4, again, you'll deal arrow damage, inflict arrow erosion, and you'll spawn that middle sword. If you use her heavy attack, which is considered basic attack damage, or her intro skill, it will spawn the sword on the left. And if you use her resonance skill, which is considered basic attack damage, again, you'll deal arrow damage, inflict arrow erosion, and you'll spawn the sword on the right. Now that all 3 sword icons are up, all you have to do is use your midair plunge attack, which is really cool since the resonance skill automatically puts you in midair, which means you can recall all 3 of these swords at once, dealing a lot of damage. Note that the swords can only stay on the field for 20 seconds, but if you do all 3 of these attacks right and you do the plunge attack, you'll notice that the icons on the swords actually change. Now they have a swirling animation around them. The reason you want all 3 of these swords active is because they each give a different bonus when Cartethyia changes over to Fleur-de-Lis. Now we could talk about the Resonance Liberation. So when you change over to Fleur-de-Lis, it will cost 50% of your HP. If you have less than 50%, it won't consume it, which is totally fine. You'll enter the manifest state and trigger arrow erosion damage. Not only does Fleur-de-Lis have her own movesets, including a basic attack 5, a heavy attack, 2 resonance skills, which can all be chained into midair attacks, pretty much allowing her to fly around the map. But you can freely switch between her Fleur-de-Lis and Cartethyia form as long as the Resonance Liberation icon is glowing white. Granted, if you're in battle, you're mainly going to stay in the Fleur-de-Lis form anyway, but take note that if you're in the Fleur-de-Lis form and the symbol is not glowing anymore and you switch back to Cartethyia, you cannot switch back to Fleur-de-Lis, so keep that in mind. When you change forms, her forte bar also changes to what's called Conviction, and as long as you hit targets with any of the attacks that I mentioned, it will charge it up. Once it's full, you can perform her Resonance Liberation finisher, Blade of Howling Squall, which has the coolest and craziest animation and after effects in the game, in my opinion. This attack will end manifest, transforming you back into Cartethyia. You'll restore 50% of your max HP and deal arrow damage to all targets in the area. Upon hitting the target, it removes all stacks of arrow erosion, and with each stack removed, it amplifies the damage taken by the target by 20% up to 5 stacks, which means you can do 100% more damage to the target. When our concerto is full and you're ready to switch out Cartethyia, now we can talk about the outro skill, Wind's Divine Blessing. So arrow damage dealt by the active resonator in the team other than Cartethyia and Fleur-de-Lis to targets with negative statuses is amplified by 17.5% for 20 seconds, which is going to be good for Arrow Rover, Chacona, and Alto, which more than likely you're going to be applying arrow erosion anyway, so this bonus is pretty nice for those characters.